welcome, welcome, Paralympic fans. We are on day 4 here at the Paralympic Winter Games in Beijing. And as you can see, it's another lovely day outside, but we want it nice and cold inside the ice cube. We are going to be watching session 10 of the round robin of wheelchair curling. And we have a tasty lineup for you today. Our featured game is going to be real heavyweights of curling, Sweden against Paralympic debutantes Estonia. The teams being welcomed to the ice by the traditional Scottish pipers.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this
meanwhile, we can see that, as we may expect, Sweden doing pretty well so far. They've played 4 and won 3 of those, but debutantes Estonia, they've already won 2 out of their first 5 games here at their very first Paralympic Winter Games. I'm sure Sweden will be taking this game extremely seriously. No easy shots out there, no easy games. So there are 2 teams. Let's say hi to our players. We have lead thrower and opening ceremony flag bearer for Sweden is Kristina Ullander.
On sheet B,
second thrower for Sweden, Mats-Ola Engborg. Third thrower for Sweden, Ronnie Persson. Fourth and skip for Sweden, Viljo Pettersson Dahl. And debutantes Estonia, lead thrower and lead thrower for Estonia, Katlin Riedebach. Second thrower is Meit Matas. Third and vice skip is Lauri Murajov. And fourth and skip for Estonia is Andrei Koitmäe. Everyone looking in a good mood out there, keen to get on with the game. And look at this for a round robin table. Sweden in 3rd place just now. They haven't played as many games as everyone else, but they are 3 wins and 1 loss. But look at Estonia, right in the thick of it. They're in 7th place with 2 wins and 3 losses. You can see Sweden's results so far, just that 1 loss to also debutantes Latvia. Really no easy games out there. All of these teams have come to play and all of them have won their way here by qualifying. And even though Sweden, they have a superb pedigree, not only in wheelchair curling, but in Olympic curling, world curling. We'll come back to talk about their strong pedigree, but this Estonian team, they're not intimidated. Look at their results so far. Norway, they've won medals in this event. And as we've seen, Latvia also riding high, so I expect we'll have a close encounter out there. We've seen that Estonia occasionally can be perhaps a little tactically more naive than some of the more experienced teams, but they'll be learning all the time. And we just need to look at which teams are not here who have represented at Paralympics before, say Germany or Finland. All of these teams had to out-qualify those countries. No team is here to make up the numbers here. Every single team has won their way here. And it will be Sweden who are starting us off. It is Estonia who have last shot advantage in the first end. Sweden wearing the dark uniforms, they'll be throwing red stones. Estonia wearing the white uniforms, they'll be throwing yellow. Kristina Ullander, flag bearer in the opening ceremony for the Swedish team, for the whole Swedish team. Starting us off in the first end of this intriguing encounter between heavyweight Sweden and newcomers Estonia.
Rätt marginal.
And that stone just slipping into the rings, but that won't bother Sweden too much at this early stage.
Inget konstigt med den.
Estonian skip Koitme just having a look to check that that is definitely in the rings.
Yeah.
That makes a difference because if that stone was not in the rings, if it was just in that white space outside, it would be protected by free guard zone. But because that stone is in the rings, and if there's any doubt, at this stage in the end, you can ask the umpire to check for you, but at this stage that stone, even by eye, we can see that's in the rings, but that's an early miss for Katlin.
13-13-5.
Sweden did take advantage of that mistake here in the first end. You can see all that white space in front of the rings. That's called the free guard zone, and any stone fully in that free guard zone that is protected for the first 5 total stones. That means that if you have a stone in that free guard zone, your opposition cannot move from play until we've played 5 shots, and that's why you saw the Estonian skip there just having a good look at it to check if it was protected by free guard zone, or if it slips into the rings, if it's in the house, then you can go ahead and hit. So that's another nice stone from lead and vice skip for Sweden, Kristina Olander. And that stone just thrown by Kristina, that is in the free guard zone, so that stone not allowed to go out of play. But the stone in front of it, in the rings, that is allowed to go out of play. You need to sometimes pay attention at this stage in the end, just to make sure that the right stones stay in play. So second chance for Katlin Lidebak. This is Estonia's first representation for wheelchair curling at Paralympic Winter Games. Oh, and that stone's not quite going to make it across that thick red line. That's the hog line, the thick red horizontal line there. You must release the stone before the hog line at the throwing end, and all of the stone must be over all of the line at the other end, so the umpire and the volunteer just removing that stone from play.
Bra!
So a bit of a nervy start for the Estonian lead there. But they do have last stone. Plenty of stones left in this first end to do something about that.
13-6.
13-4.
Härlig linje, Moe. Bra.
Fin sten.
Fin sten.
Very bright start from Sweden. You can see they have those 2 stones towards the centre, and now they've got one tucked in right behind it. But we've played 5 stones. That means free guard zone is over, and we can see Estonia now want to try to remove some of these Swedish stones. Probably neither team wanting to get in a mess here in this first end. Both teams will probably see fairly happy playing conservative tactics, and that's removed one of them. That's a nice throw from Mate Mattas. Second thrower for Estonia, his first throw in this game. And in fact, this Estonian team out there, the 4 out on the ice and the 5th player as alternate, they are the Estonian team here at the Paralympic Winter Games in Beijing. It's those 5 representing their whole country, so I'm sure Estonian people very much behind their team out there. And in fact, they're the first Paralympic Winter athletes to take part in a Paralympic Winter Games in any discipline, in any sport for Estonia since 2002. So a really special moment for Estonian winter sports out there. Sweden starting with quite some intent. Back to Estonia. They only joined the World Curling Federation, so that's the overseeing body for the sport of curling. They only joined the World Curling Federation in 2003. So they're a relatively new country in curling terms. They haven't been around for hundreds of years, like Scotland, where curling was invented. So it's a really special moment for Estonian curling. Their men's and ladies teams and their mixed doubles teams also pretty strong, but not yet qualified for their respective Olympic disciplines.
Bra!
So this is the first team to represent Estonia at this level. First stone then in the first end of this game for
Kändes okej, linje.
Persson.
Bra då nu.
15-9.
Det är bra Ronta.
Sweden are quite happy to keep things simple for them. They have that one red stone there in the 8-foot, the white circle. They don't have last stone, Sweden, so they don't need to score points at the moment. It's only the first end. Nobody needs to be too aggressive and take big risks. That stone from Ronnie Persson, it's on the right line, but as you can see, it's fairly far in front of the rings. It doesn't catch in our camera view. So first stone for Lauri Murashov. There should be space for Estonia to go all the way around that stone thrown by Ronnie Persson. And round he goes. Really nice stuff from him. Getting a nice roll to the left of our screen.
Yep.
That makes it that little bit harder for Sweden to hit and roll back behind all that cover. It's a bit more of a space between that yellow stone and the guards over on the right of that centre line. So that's a nice result for Estonia there.
Bra!
And in contrast, this Swedish team, they have huge experience between them.
Okay.
This same team represented Sweden in the 2018 Paralympic Winter
8-5
Games.
8-6!
They finished 10th in that competition. Kristina Olander, she represented Sweden in a slightly different team in 2014, where the team finished 7th. And then Sweden been represented at every single Paralympic Winter Games in wheelchair curling since the event was introduced in 2006, and it was a different team, but they picked up bronze twice actually, in 2006 and 2010 against Norway and the US respectively. So Sweden have a mighty pedigree here at Paralympic Winter Games in wheelchair curling. And in fact, this Swedish team out in the ice just now, they have been riding high in the World Wheelchair Championships as well. Last year, they won a silver against China. And the year before that, in 2020 Worlds, they won a bronze against that same Chinese team. So the Swedish team on fire for the past couple of years at this top level. Skip stones then in this first end. First stone for Swedish skip, Julio Pettersson-Dahl.
Var nära bottnan där.
Ja, nej.
Ja.
And Estonia not quite clearing that Swedish stone with their last stone. So again, Sweden quite happy to just keep blocking that path. That's overcurled just slightly, but as you can see from the angle, the Swedish stone behind that guard just played by Pettersson-Dahl. Even if Estonia can catch that stone, I don't think they can roll to the right of our screen. I don't think they can curl enough to get fully in behind guard from Pettersson-Dahl and roll behind cover. So nice start there for Swedish skip, Julio Pettersson-Dahl. First throw then for Estonian skip, Andrei Koitmäe. He is going for that Swedish shot. It's not quite, that's just going to curl onto the Swedish guard there. So that guard from Pettersson-Dahl, it did its job. That's exactly what it was there for, to try to catch Estonia out. And I fancy we will see copy-paste from Pettersson Dahl. Sweden will be happy to just replace that guard
Inne. Bra där.
and keep it difficult for Estonia to get to that stone in the middle. And that's a good time to
Bra.
talk about one of the first key differences between wheelchair
Den
curling and
också nära.
Ja,
rolling.
jag kände det.
Bra
Is that,
satt.
as you can see, there is no sweeping involved, and
Kanske läge för
you
dig
could
att skruva
imagine
åt
Ja, jag tror
något.
det.
that first stone from the Estonian skip, if we'd had two big boys out there sweeping, they may have been able
13-4.
to
Är
hold
bra
the
William.
direction and sweep it past a
Bra.
guard.
Bra. Fin linje också. Jag
That's
plussade
nice
lite
again
för
from
att...
Pettersson Dahl.
Ja,
Really good stuff from
För
them.
att
They
den
now
skulle
have
komma
two Swedish counters in the rings.
det är bra.
Jag ska dra in den här lite. Den slår nästan nu.
But again, with all these stones achieved with no sweeping and not having sweepers, that really just increases the difficulty of every stone in wheelchair curling, because once that stone's on its way, you don't have any sweepers. The sweepers can drag the stone on a little bit longer if it's not travelling as far as you want, or they can also sweep for direction. You can try to sweep to hold the stone a bit straighter, or if the stone has already caught a bit of the curl, you can keep sweeping it in that direction and try to get it to curl more. So we use sweeping a lot in non-wheelchair curling, and the absence of being able to sweep in the wheelchair curling discipline just increases the level of difficulty of the shots, as we saw there with Andrei Kutmay's first stone. Oh, very unlucky not to get the double there. Again, you need your angles just perfect there, and that's very difficult to control without that sweeping, but not too bad for Estonia. They only lose 1 point.
Bra grabbar.
That's a steal of 1 point to Sweden in the first end. They score even without last stone, and after one end, Sweden lead Estonia 1 shot to 0.
Om man vill viska.
Confirmation of that steal. Sweden scoring a point even without the advantage of last stone in the first end. Sweden leading Estonia 1 shot to 0 after one end.
13-2 kanske, va? 13.
Ja.
10.
Yes, we know.
5. 3.
Bra!
När du vill.
Estonia then keep last stone in the second
Lite
end.
tight.
Håller med!
We play 8 ends in wheelchair curling. If the scores are tied after 8 ends, we will play an extra end or more, very unusually. We must have a winner though. It's not allowed to draw a game. We will have 1 win and 1 loss, and it doesn't matter if you win on the very last stone of an extra end or if you win by 10 points to 1. All that we record for the purpose of this competition is 1 win or 1 loss.
Ja.
The teams have 30 minutes thinking time each. And that works a little bit like a chess clock. So once your stone is on its way, like this first throw from Katlin Rytebak from Estonia, your clock stops. And that's better from her. That will settle her nerves a little bit. And once that stone has come to rest from Estonia, then Sweden's thinking clock will start.
Du vet vad som gäller på Niklas?
And we have specially trained volunteers,
Ligger
special
där.
people
Bra!
to manage those clocks. It's not the players who have to manage the clocks.
Kändes okej.
Bra, Kiki.
And typically at the club, you just have one big clock that you play the whole game under. But at this level,
8-9, bra
each
spel.
team has their own thinking time
Härligt
clock.
Kiki.
And that's a lovely stone from Kristina Olander. Lead and bike skip for Sweden.
Bra
Yeah,
fart.
little smile for her. She's happy with that. The teams also have one timeout available to them. You can at any point stop the clock and call for a timeout, and then your coach can come down and you can discuss the situation with them. So each team has a 1 minute timeout doing their regulation E10s. And you don't have to use it. Sometimes we will even see teams just calling timeout just because they're maybe running a little bit tight for time. And they just need to stop the clock to get themselves into throwing position. And Katlin Lideberg just struggling a little bit with her game in these early ends.
Den har du.
Bra.
And she'll be looking to tighten that up. If you play lead at your club,
Han till och med sitter och ler nu när han drar iväg stenarna.
you never get the feeling that
Lite in.
you play lead because you're
Det är nya tider nu.
not such a good player and lead doesn't matter very much or something. That's not how it works at
Titta
all.
nu, nu sitter han där.
As you can see, Katlin Lideberg from Estonia
Ja, det har vi.
just struggling a little bit to find her game in this first couple of ends, whereas Kristina Olander playing just beautifully. And what a difference that's making to Sweden. We could see how straightforward the tactics could be from Sweden in the first end, because the end was so nicely set up by Kristina. Whereas Estonia, they were the ones having to make the more difficult shots, so that's how important those first two stones are. That doesn't mean you're the worst player or not very important, it's quite the reverse. This looks nicer from Estonia. That's a really nice shot. And he just gets a little roll over to the left there, and now you can see that that stone's partially hidden. So there's our coach for Estonia, that's Chris Bowden. He's actually from Canada, from London, Ontario. He's the
Kom igen nu.
head
Rycker
of
du
the
centern är
wheelchair
också
curling
fine. Bra.
organisation there from Canada.
Bra. Ligger lite där.
Tänk på att le.
Tage 5.
Second stone in the second end for second thrower from Sweden,
Bra.
Mats-Olle Engborg. And he does make contact, but that's why we could see how important that little roll towards the centre was for Estonia. That made that angle just that bit harder for Sweden, and that Estonian stone is still hanging around. So he's popped it out the other side, but now here is a chance for Estonia to maybe get a second stone in. See Katlin Lideberg holding the wheels for her teammate Mait Matas. That's traditionally how wheelchair throwers set up. So you're setting yourself up to throw, your teammate will hold your wheels. And oftentimes your third thrower down at that end, they will be timing the stone. But let's take a break from technical jibber-jabber to see what a beautiful stone that is from Mait Matas. You can see that those two yellow stones exactly level. They're both just a couple of centimetres behind the tee line. That's the horizontal line in the rings. And to remove both those stones with one shot, so to make a double takeout, not possible. And that's exactly why they wanted those two yellow stones exactly level. Really nice stuff from Mait Matas. 12 out of 10 for that shot.
Du sa Niklas.
Japp.
Det är din Ronny. Fokus. Ja.
Kom igen nu. Bra. Kändes lite där bara.
Okej.
Ronny Persson being asked to remove one of them.
8-3!
And he does that handily, but important for
Ja, lite
Estonia
hård också.
is that they have that one yellow still hanging around. And let's say hi to the Swedish coach. That's Alison Krevietuk, she's also originally from Canada. She used to play in the ladies' rink with Rachel Homan. But she's been in Sweden for a while now. Very much involved in coaching the Swedish teams.
Läks suunalt välja. 12-7.
Palju?
Oh, and that's unlucky for Estonia, although not a terrible plan B.
Niklas eller?
Again, you can see without that sweeping, it increases the level of difficulty, and to get a stone in behind the guard or very accurately can be more difficult. But he's bumped that red over a little bit, and maybe that could provide some cover for that yellow stone still in the house. But Sweden are pretty ruthless out there. As soon as they have a chance to remove Estonian stones, very strong hitting team, the Swedish team.
Bra.
Ja. Inne lite. Bra.
We do think of Swedish teams typically being very strong at hitting. This team no exception.
Ja då. Kändes bra.
8-2, 8-1.
8-3. Bra Ronny, bra
He
linje.
does get that out beautifully. So nothing in the house, but as you can see, there are still 2 guards out front there that Estonia can use.
Või tahad siia punase taha tulla? Ükskõik.
Mul ükskõik.
Estonia, they have 3 stones left. Sweden just 2. Estonia with last stone carrying over into the second end after Sweden stealing a point in the first end. And all Estonia need is just 1 mistake from Sweden. So they're trying to set up a trap here. They're trying to put a stone buried in behind one of those guards out front, make it really difficult for Sweden to remove. And if they can coax a mistake out from the strong Swedish hitting team, they may have a chance to set up 2 points.
Ennem oli 11-9, nüüd on 15.
That's running a bit short, but as we would say at the club, well, it's no use through the back. That means if that stone was too long, if it travelled too far and went through the back of the house, then it's out of play. You can't use it anyway. So a second guard, that's a better result than if the stone was too heavy. You'll hear English-speaking countries talking about the weight of the stone. So that's a heavy stone that's travelling fast, or it's a light stone that's travelling more slowly. And I know certainly that in German language, you talk about the length of the stone. Either the length is travelling a long way, or it's travelling a bit shorter. You will say that the stone is long or it's short. I can't speak for other languages, but you will hear the curling teams talking about those 2 terms. This is nice again from Petter Sundal. He's having a really strong start to his game today. Sweden, they don't necessarily try to score points with that red stone. What they're trying to do is simply keep pressure on Estonia. They don't want Estonia to be able to build up a couple of stones in that house. And as long as Sweden has stones in the house as well, that's the rings, that's keeping that pressure on Estonia. So Sweden, they'll be very happy if that little red stone there can score them a point, but they don't really expect it to. That's not necessarily the objective of that play.
Kui ta ei lähe, siis ta läheb vastu punast ja põrkab sealt punasest sinna kollaste taha.
That stone's there to put pressure on Estonia.
Võtan sama suuna, mis neil või? Neil oli siin.
Mida?
Neil oli siin suun.
Ei, ma ei lähe sinna, ma lähen seda ära lööma, Lauri. Kuuled või? 10-11-ga. Ma mõtlesin, vabandust, ma mõtlesin, sa said aru, ma otsin. Võta suund sinna, natuke rohkem sinna poole. Võt nii, jah.
You can see how much more difficult it is when that stone's hidden in behind, we see it's buried in behind that guard. Much more difficult to have access to that stone to remove it or push it around a bit. That's why the guards out front, the stones out front of the rings, that's why they're so important. And that's why utilising that free guard zone with the first 5 stones, that can be really critical to the strategy of the end.
Võib-olla punasesse, aga vahet pole, kui läheb, siis läheb. No äkki läheb nüüd sealt põrkab sinna kollaste taha.
And again, the Estonians just catching a little bit too much power. Those guards doing their job for Sweden.
Palju?
11-9.
And Estonia have indeed fallen into that trap sprung by Sweden.
Ja.
Kom igjen.
13-5. Ligger lite inne. Bra.
That one Swedish stone then still in the rings in the house.
Kom igjen. Kom igjen. Hela vägen.
Inne. Bra.
Not sure why we call the rings the house. Clearly not at all house-shaped. But you will hear curlers talking about we need a couple stones in the house, or let's aim for the house, just short of the house. You'll hear talk of house all the time. And we simply mean the rings. So this one coming in a bit chunkier than the first one. But that's just going to hang on at the back there. And actually, that's found a decent spot, even if Estonia would follow that stone from Pettersson Dahl.
Det är bra.
Lägger den i sticken, sen lägger den på
They would
denna
bump
sidan.
right up to that stone.
Okei.
Kui vastu läheb, peaks parem olema.
Yeah, if they would land a stone just where
Vaata, kui napilt ta mööda läks, ma mõtlen, kui ma seda löön, kas ma siis ei jää
pointing his brush,
paremaks?
that won't be enough.
Sa pead
So
otse pähe saama.
Ja ma tean, jah.
we need a what we call a dead draw here from Estonia. No backing. He just has to land this stone closer to the middle.
Okei, ma proovin siis tulla sealt kadu kiiremaga talle vastu, siin tagumisele vastu.
Yeah, no other stones he can really use to help there, so he just has to land the stone perfectly in the middle. We would say that this is just like the last shot draw that the teams did before their game during the practice. So big stone here for Estonia. He's throwing against two Swedish counters. As we said, Sweden don't necessarily expect to score with those counters, but those stones putting pressure on here, and that stone is coming in very high. But I think it does just about sit close enough to the centre for one yellow. You can see that yellow just thrown by Estonia there. I think it's just touching the 8-foot circle, the white one.
One yellow.
Teams just having a good look when the stones are close like that. Makes sense to check, but it sounds like they're agreed it is one yellow point, and very important point there for Estonia. Big difference between scoring 1 point for Estonia, and now the stone is the score will be one shot each.
Ja.
Yeah, that's confirmed.
Non räddar ju.
Important last shot there from Estonia. One shot each after 2 games.
Nagu näha on, ei ole tänase...
Ja, et...
There's our game summary just now, and we've seen that really reflected in the play. So Sweden really out-hitting Estonia at the moment, out-shooting them. But important last stone there for Estonia to steady the ship, get that one important point on the board. That's one shot each after 2 ends.
Aga kaitse on hea, peale pole vaja.
Jah.
It's Estonia that will start us off in this third end.
Lühike.
Katalin Wiedebak for lead thrower for Estonia. It's a big difference between Estonia scoring that point in the second end to bring the score to 1 shot each, rather than those two dangerous Swedish stones picking up 2. That would make the score 3-0 instead. So huge difference there, and really important point on the board for Estonia, and a really nice start there from Katlin Riedebach. As we said, that's a nice stone in the centre there that Estonia can use to then put stones around. That stone from her protected by free guard zone until we've thrown 5 shots.
Kändes
So
okej.
Kristina Olander from Sweden
Okej.
not allowed to remove that stone from play. You can move it around, but you cannot remove it from play. So Sweden then opting to just ignore that stone and just play towards the wings, as we say. That means the sides of the sheets. And you heard Pettersson Dahl saying that was a bra shot, a very nice shot, it really was. And if you're Swedish, you maybe think that that wasn't such a great shot. Wasn't that moving away from the centre of the rings rather than towards? And yes, it was. But the reason that's a good shot is because it is Sweden now. For the first time in this game, they have last stone advantage in this third end. And as long as Sweden can keep the game away from the centre, they would rather keep the centre clear and try to keep Estonia busy on the on the wings. But Estonia persisting with playing to the centre, and that's 2 absolute peaches from Katlin Riedebach.
Okej.
She'll be wanting to keep that kind of consistency.
Tänker vi 12 eller?
Ja. 12-5.
12-5.
En liten dött.
Ja.
So Sweden quite happy to
Precis, bra.
have that stone on the outside of the rings there, because that keeps the path a bit clearer towards the centre with the later stones at this end. The first stones of the end, we will often see teams playing away from the centre because they don't want to get kind of stuck in a bit of a dead end. If all the stones are heading towards the centre, it can be difficult to score more than 1. Oh, that held its breath. Going around Golly. And gosh, Kristina Olander could hardly have placed that much better. Let's see that in the replay. Oh my goodness, that was molecule space between her stone and that guard. Quite right, a pump, fist in the air pump for that. And again, achieved without sweeping. It's very difficult to get those very precise shots in wheelchair curling. The degree of difficulty much higher. This is wise from Estonia. Let's just try to remove that open Swedish stone. It's Sweden who has last stone advantage in this third end. Really want Sweden to be able to build stones. And this stone is wide open. With that stone just over curling for Meit Matas.
Kan tänka mig att lägga en där.
And that's a pity.
Marginal lite in.
Ja, hänger du framkant också bra, Moe?
Ja, bra.
Marginaltag.
Ja. Det är din.
A couple of choices here for Sweden.
Ja, typ. Där omkring. Jag får nog hoppa ett steg. Okej, gör det.
Sweden in a nice strong position early in this third end. They have last stone advantage, and they already have 2 stones lying inside the rings. So second thrower Mats-Ola Engborg. Setting up to put a third Swedish stone in the rings. You could see his teammate Ronnie Persson holding his wheels for stability, make sure he doesn't slip as he's throwing.
13-7.
And Kristina Olander just calling out how long that stone is taking to travel. That's a great shot from Mats-Ola Engborg, excuse me. Yeah, Estonia need to be careful here. They don't want to start letting this game get away from them. Sweden throwing very, very nicely early in this game. Estonia struggling a little bit to keep up with them, and Estonia really need to find their form and not let Sweden start building building ends and building up points here. But that's a nice effort from Matas.
Har du den med Niklas eller?
He does get a nice little roll. He would have loved that roll to be just a little bit shorter, but you can see the angle is set up so that if Sweden don't get this angle really perfectly, that yellow could squirt straight back onto the red. And then the red will go out and the yellow will stay. So this is not an easy shot.
Ja.
Kom igen. Hela vägen.
Bra. Känns lite där,
Ja,
Moe.
jag kände det.
Ja.
Uppsan.
And sometimes just the
Bra fart.
visual of it
Det är kvasten
can
bara.
get into your head, and it looks like that's exactly what's happened for
Nästan fick med
Mats-Olle
allihop.
Engborg. That's exactly what the danger was. It looks like he was very conscious to not curl onto that guard. You can see he missed the guard by miles, and that's exactly why that was a really nice throw from Estonia the stone before. The angle was set up nicely for them to cause a mistake, and it has. All of the wheelchair players these days, at least, they all throw with the stick delivery. You can see that about 2 meters long. The stick, you can adjust it a little bit for your own self. That's nice from Lauri Murashov. Just clearing that
Kom
danger.
igen nu.
Lite mer? Nej.
Sitta molemmat võtta.
Fler.
Ja.
Back in the day when wheelchair curling was just starting off, some of the players, they would even just lean an arm
Bra.
over the side and throw the stone by hand. But technology always improving, and now you will see all of the players using stick delivery.
Fokus, bästa fart.
Kom igen.
And some standing players use stick delivery as well, if you maybe have more limited mobility
Ute lite.
in your legs
Bra.
or in your knees. And the traditional leg drive delivery, if that's not so easy, then yeah, standing players, they can use a stick delivery as well, just that one smooth push. If you just saw from Ronnie Persson.
Bra Ronny!
Det är bra, Rontan. Fick ut den i ljuset. Snyggt.
Ja, det är bra. Ja. Snyggt, Ronny.
Nice from Ronnie Persson. He gets everything moving. So he picks that dangerous Estonian stone away from the 4-foot circle, the red one. And there's still one stone, the yellow one, hanging around. But much more space for Sweden to get stones near the centre after removing that Estonian shot. You can see you have to be very accurate when setting up for a stick delivery throw,
8-9. Läheb küll jah.
which
Ja jäi ise peale
Lauri
ka veel.
Murashov very much is. Lovely stones from him. Totally neutralised the danger. Sweden were building a few stones earlier on in this end, and Estonia totally neutralised that danger. Yeah, you have to really set up very accurately for stick delivery. You have that one smooth push towards the brush at the other end. And once the stone's on its way, you can't adjust it, whereas with the leg drive delivery,
Bra.
the more traditional and standing curling, once you've pushed out of the hack, that's the little black
Kändes okej.
Bara.
grip where your foot starts off in non-wheelchair curling.
8-5.
Once you drive out,
Kvar, jag
Det är
tar
bra,
den.
Ronny.
Bra, Rontan.
then you still
Yeah.
have 2 or 3 seconds before you release the stone. So if you feel like you've come out a little bit inaccurately, left or right, or if you feel like you've pushed out too hard or too soft, you do have 2 or 3 seconds to try to adjust a little bit. And that's not the case if you're using stick delivery, as our wheelchair athletes are. And that's another factor that, again, just raises that degree of difficulty for each stone. There's no adjustment possible once the stone is on its way with a stick delivery. First stone of the fourth throwers in this third end. We are on day 4 of the Paralympic Winter Games here in Beijing, and we are in the thick of a really fascinating round robin here in this wheelchair curling competition at the Paralympic Winter Games. That's another nice stone from Andrei Kotmei. This is exactly what we need to see from Estonia. Sweden are a very strong team. They've won silver and bronze at the past 2 World Wheelchair Championships, this team. Very, very good championship team, and this is exactly what we need to see from
Yes.
Paralympic debutants Estonia. Don't be intimidated. Don't let Sweden start building points, start getting ahead of you in this game.
Kom igen, sträck ut så har han.
Är det så mycket is eller?
Ja, vad ska du komma Niklas?
Niklas.
Ja, det tror jag nog.
Kom igen, Niklas.
We do have a couple of volunteers,
Jag riktar om den där,
one at
Kiki.
either end of the rink.
Bra!
And they're there to help
Bra.
with the stones, so
Bra
they will
noggrannhet.
clean the stone
Ja, kom igen.
before the
Lite
player
inne.
throws,
Bra.
and then the volunteer at the other end, they will just, if a stone goes out of play, they will just make sure it's kept behind and
Ada.
tidied away, just to keep things progressing. First stone of the third end for Swedish skip, Viljo Pettersendal.
Bra.
Bra,
No
Viljo!
trouble there,
Jättefin fart.
removing that Estonian stone, but he hit it on the nose, right in the middle of the stone.
Det är snyggt.
And Estonia, they can still see all of that red. And if Estonia can simply remove this red,
Ära võta nii kaugele.
then that's objective met
Ära
for this
võta nii
third end for
kaugele.
Estonia. Even better if Estonia could remove this red, and if their shooter, the stone they're just about to throw, if that's it right there, that will become the shooter, the thrown stone. If they can get that shooter to hang around in the rings as well, they will have 2 stones lying and put a bit of pressure on Sweden. But first things first, as long as they remove this Swedish stone, there will be no chance for Sweden to score 2 points, and we shall discuss the big difference between scoring 1 point with last stone and scoring 2 or more.
Strax när han vulgerar.
Lovely. That's exactly what Estonia needed in this third end. No chance for Sweden to score 2 points anymore. And this Estonian team, they're starting to build a portfolio in wheelchair curling as well.
Okej där!
Ja.
As we
Bra!
said, all the teams have won their way to compete here. There are teams who qualified for last Paralympics that we haven't seen here, so all of these
Kom
teams
igen, den har du.
are absolutely
Inne.
in good form. This
Inne.
Estonian team,
Bra!
they finished 8th and 10th at the 2019 and 2020 World Wheelchair Championships respectively. And that nice consistent performance earned them enough points to qualify for this Paralympic Winter Games. And oof,
One yellow.
I think that's the first mistake we've seen from Viljo Pettersendal. And that is a very welcome steal of 1 point. Rather out of nowhere. I think that probably surprised everybody. But Estonia will gladly take that steal of 1 point. They score 1 point without having last stone. After the curl just catching out Sweden there. And after 3 ends then, that steal of 1 point means the overall score is Estonia lead, mighty Sweden, 2 shots to 1.
Räägivad meie isegi see
Ei julge.
time out meil ei.
Here's our overall summary, we're not quite seeing it reflected in the game score yet. We're definitely seeing Sweden outshooting Estonia a little bit, but a critical mistake there from Sweden on that very last stone. That shows you the importance of making 8 out of 8 stones. You can, the whole end can change just with one mistake, and that mistake handing Estonia 1 point, and they lead 2 shots to 1.
Nüüd võin.
Sweden then keeping last stone advantage in this 4th end. We're coming up to half time. This is an 8-end game. So after this 4th end, we shall have a half-time pause. And Katlin Riedebach, she set up Estonia beautifully in the 3rd end, and she started out with another real peachy shot out there. And again, we see Sweden playing away from the centre.
13.
Yep.
Bra. Nej.
That's not a mistake. We need a nice setup again here
Den ville slå ur på out
from
här.
Kristina Olander.
Men det var ju den vi har.
Det är ju den. Jag tappar den lite rakt.
12-7. Bra Kiki. Härligt.
This looks nice again from her. That's a lovely T-weight. The weight of the stone, how far it travels, is exactly enough to land on the T-line, that horizontal line. Kristina Olander, she'll be wanting to keep that weight in her pocket. Very important for the lead stones to be accurate like that, well placed. We saw Katlin Riedebach in the first, in the previous end. We saw her play 2 really lovely stones to set up Estonia.
Ja, pigem 14.
And is this one going to make it into the rings? Not quite, but a second guard is absolutely fine. Those stones nicely lined up, and both of those stones from Katlin Riedebach protected by free guard zone. Sweden not allowed to remove those stones from play until we have played 5 stones.
Kom igen.
So a nice start from Katlin Riedebach.
Bra. Ja, där är bra.
Kanske lite där.
Ja, lite, men jag tror att det är okej.
And this is a fresh path out there.
13-2.
Det är bra fart igen.
Bra Kiki.
But no problem for
Bra.
Kristina Olander.
Snyggt
Look
där.
at that. She sunk a second stone in, I
13-2.
would say, a good half stone behind those yellow guards.
Ja.
Yes, nu grabbar tar ni hand om de här.
And both of our
Kanske slår ära selle
women
ka.
players having a really strong game. Yeah, that's a great angle. Look, very difficult to see that red stone for second thrower Mait Matash. Reassuring
Tuleb mööda va?
Ei tule.
pat on the
Ei tule,
shoulder
ei tule.
from
No läheb kollane,
teammate
mis sa
Katlin Riedebach.
Võtab eest. Ei, võttis eest lahti.
Just removed his own guard there. He's certainly made things a little bit better. That stone's now open, but
15.
that wasn't
Yeah,
quite
det
the
är din
tolerance
mål.
for that shot. He may have wanted to be
Nu känner
a
vi.
little bit wider there.
14-5.
Ja. Det gör de. 14-5. Det är bra mål. Det är
Absolut.
det.
14-5-15.
Another thing to
Ebra,
notice about
come here.
wheelchair curling is that all of the teams out there, by the rules of wheelchair curling, all of them must have at least 1 woman and at least 1 man. And the other folks in your team can be either gender, but it is a rule of wheelchair curling
Kändes bra.
that you must have at least 1 woman and at least 1 man. Wheelchair curling,
Kom
really
igen.
progressive and inclusive
14-3. Härligt steg Moe.
for women and
Mycket bra.
men. And of course, that's a perfect shot there from
Bra Moe.
Matsola Engborg. It's a little bit unorthodox to play towards the centre when you have last stone. And the reason is because if Estonia can ever get a stone right in the middle there, it would be very tough for Sweden to remove it, and that's why you'll often see the team without last stone. Sorry, the team with last stone, and in this case that's Sweden. You will often see the team with last stone playing away from the centre, and that's why, because even though Sweden now has a couple of nice stones in the centre, if Estonia can ever sneak a little stone into the centre somehow, it could be hard for Sweden to remove it. But at the moment, Estonia have bigger problems to worry about, and they do need to start worrying about those two nicely placed Swedish stones already in the house, in the rings.
Dra den här är ju fint! Fastna den där är ju bra! Eller hur?
Make an impact on
Lite gard är också
the Swedish setup here at the moment, Estonia.
Okej, rätt marginal.
Bra snackat.
13!
13. Kom igen, den har du.
Det är din Moe.
So in wheelchair curling, we always see men and ladies on the team. That's one of the rules, and actually at club level, you will see that as well. So if you wanted to try curling, whether you're a wheelchair user or a standing curler, that's absolutely fine. At club level, those differences that increase the degree of difficulty for the stones for wheelchair curling, you notice those differences at this highest level. But at club level, at hobby level, it doesn't make so much difference. And at the club, everyone can play together. So whether you're man, woman, wheelchair user, not wheelchair, if you want to try curling, you absolutely can. You don't need anything special. The club will have curling brushes and sticks for delivery. These guys out in the ice, that's their normal day-to-day wheelchair. You don't need any wheelchair for sport or special modification. You see some of them have a little handle to hold on to for balance on their non-throwing arm, but you certainly don't need that once you're learning, while you're learning rather. So yeah, if you're a wheelchair user and a little bit sporty, looking for a new sport, then do think of curling, even if you're the only wheelchair user at the club. It's really not a problem. You can join in with everyone. Everyone can play together. Now, a featured game here, we are watching curling heavyweight Sweden playing Paralympic Winter Games newcomers Estonia, and that's exactly why we typically see the team without last stone playing away from the centre, because now Estonia has a nice little stone there snuggled in behind some cover, and that could get a little bit more dangerous for Sweden. I think Sweden still lie two. Yes, those two red stones on the right. Looks like they're closest to the centre. Well, that could be a dangerous stone now. And difficult for Sweden to do anything about it. They can drive that red back. It looks like that's what they're planning. Ronnie Persson, very experienced, having a really strong game.
Vi ligger ju 2 dock.
Känns det som skjutningen finns där?
Den finns där, men den kan ju ställa till det med.
Vi ligger ju 2 också. Ska vi inte skydda dem?
Jag menar, vi ligger 2.
Ja.
Gardar du där?
Jag tycker garda. Ja, alla vill garda, så vi kör gard istället.
Det är din, Ronny. Du har gardfarten.
Vill du ha den här eller där?
Jag tar den där.
Bra.
The discussion is, not that I can translate the Swedish, but I imagine the discussion is, as we noticed, those two Swedish stones are actually still closest to the centre. So it's not urgent that Sweden need to do something about that Estonian stone that's now towards the centre. And I think initially they did want to attack that stone, but now they're thinking, hang on a minute, we do actually already have 2 stones nicely lined up. Maybe we should think about guarding those instead and force Estonia to make the more difficult shot. I think this is a smart move. Although that stone just stayed out a little bit. That stone didn't want to curl as much. And possibly now Estonia can access those Swedish stones. There's a nice gap towards those Swedish stones now.
Kui sa inniga ei eksi, saad ilusti pihta ka siit. Aga võid tulla ka siit.
Tulen inniga. Tulen siit.
Lauri.
Sees.
9.
Jaa.
Ei hakkas hüppama, aga läheb küll. Läheb. Vaata, kus kurat keerab.
Big throw from Lauri Murashov. Oh, he's just sneaked around the guard.
Selle peitu.
He gets both the Swedish stones moving. He gets a little bit of an unlucky bounce. One of them bouncing back towards the centre. He's cleared out one of them. That's a pretty nice result. At the moment, as it stands, not so easy for Sweden to get a second shot. We can see that red just behind the tee line, the horizontal line. That's definitely closest.
Come here.
Sweden now having to go on the anti-clockwise handle to try to get a second stone towards the centre. And this is definitely a more difficult way of getting points. It's certainly easier for Estonia to just chase you straight towards the centre and block that scoring area.
Torm 9. Kom mycket där.
Nej, bra fart. Det kom väldigt mycket tidigt.
Ja, jag såg det.
And life not getting easier for Sweden now. This is the danger of playing towards the centre, is that you can end up with an awful lot of stones in the centre and makes it difficult to build an end, to start getting more stones in. Now, if you're Estonia, what do you want to do here? And the answer could be nothing very fancy, actually. This is one of those situations where in the fourth end, Estonia are leading 2 shots to 1.
Punase ette panen kaitse. Et ta ei saaks punase edasi lüüa.
Miukes.
Seda sealt, vastu meie kollast.
Seda?
Jah.
Estonia lead 2 shots to 1, and at the moment, looks pretty difficult for Sweden to get a second shot. At the moment, you can see that red stone from Sweden. At the moment, that's scoring them 1 point. But if you're Sweden, and if you want to try to get more points, pretty difficult to do it. And Estonia, they don't mind, actually. If Sweden just get 1 point in this end, that would make the score 2 shots each at half-time. And Estonia would then have last stone advantage in the 5th end. So actually, this is one of those occasions where a score of -1 to Estonia, i.e. 1 point to Sweden, that's actually perfectly desirable for Estonia. And I fancy we will see them just trying to consolidate this position here. They don't mind Sweden scoring 1 point. They just don't want them to have an easy chance to score more than 1.
18.
So what they've done is they've blocked the way to that red that's also just touching that line on the right of the centre, so that Sweden can't use that red. They can't use that red to either punch out the Estonian stone. There, that's a nice angle. That was a possible shot for Sweden, was to play that red just on the left of the centre line, punch out the Estonian stone, the yellow one, and then Sweden would be lying 2. So that was wise tactics, wise choices from Estonia. Sweden have 2 shots left, only 1 for Estonia.
Lite inne. Bra där.
Yes.
And Sweden somehow trying to find a way to get a second stone in there. And if you're learning curling, if you're learning tactics, this end is a very nice demonstration of the higher risk of playing towards the centre if you are the team with last stone, but he does have, he's made a very nice shot there. It has gone beyond the tee line, but it is tucked right in behind that red guard. I think that's about as good as he could do with that one.
Den är inte lätt.
Estonia's last zone coming up before half-time. They played this handle with their first stone and it curled a little bit too much, so I'm sure they'll have made that adjustment. This certainly looks better for line. Nowhere near the guards, that's good. Oh, and he makes contact with the Swedish stone. But bumps it the wrong way. And big chance here then for Sweden if they would just play the same shot again that Peter Sundal just played before. Sweden could end up with a big score of 3 in this fourth end. So big risk, bigger risk playing towards the centre, but potentially bigger reward here. At this level, you will rarely get a better chance to score 3 points. He just wants to play a copy-paste of his first stone.
12.
And this stone looks pretty nice. He does have that Estonian stone, but a bit of a let-off for Estonia. That second stone from Viljo Pettersson not curling as much as his first one. And that's a score of 2 for Sweden in this fourth end. There we are then, after 4 ends. Sweden leads Estonia by 3 shots to 2.
Yeah.
Here's our local fans enjoying watching the curling here in the Ice Cube. No foreign fans at this Paralympics. Here's the overall accuracy summary for Sweden so far. Pretty good numbers, pretty on a par with their tournament performance so far. Definitely out-shooting Estonia, and I think they just need to be patient, Sweden. I think bigger scores will come.
Har vi något på stenarna som vi...
Kicke står väl över.
Min första roterar mycket, men det går bra.
Det går bra.
På outhand är den lite värre än på inhand.
Men allt
och du är väldigt nära att tappa dem.
And there's a summary for Estonia. Again, not bad at all. A little bit behind Sweden, but definitely hanging on to this game. And especially fourth thrower, Andrei Kortmai, he's made several important shots in this game already. Let's see what their coach can offer.
Offense with some corner guards. They're not playing exceptionally well, so let's try to take advantage of it. Okay. Yeah. It's the score that we want.
The Estonian coach, of course, originally from Canada. That's why they're speaking in English. And there's our overall game summary. Numbers not too far apart, but Sweden somewhat outshooting Estonia at the moment, but Estonia making a couple of key shots to keep themselves in this game. I get the feeling that if Sweden are just patient, if they just keep making the shots the way they are, then I get the feeling they will make a breakthrough in the second half. And Estonia, they just need to keep doing what they're doing. They need a little bit more consistency if they want to push ahead and win this game, Estonia. They're making critical shots, but not quite stringing 8 shots out of 8 together just yet. But delicately poised, this game between curling heavyweight Sweden and Paralympic Winter Games newcomers Estonia, who are acquitting themselves already very well in this competition.
Okay, guys, go and have fun. Timeout left. I'm still up there, willing to listen.
Estonia already won 2 of their first 5 games in this Paralympic Winter Games here in Beijing.
Men då gör vi det.
Ta din tid.
Lugna tid.
Still all to play for, plenty of points out there. We are right in the middle of this round robin for the wheelchair curling event.
Bra där!
Dra när du vill.
And still a tight game out there. Sweden leading Estonia 3 shots to 2 going into the second half.
Härligt!
Kändes bra!
Bra, Kiki!
We've seen some very nice set-up play from Kristina Olander and her opposition number, Katlin Riedeback. So valuable to have lead stones well set up. That just makes the strategy very much easier, and that's pretty much a perfect start there from Kristina Olander. Let's see what Estonia want to do. Estonia have last stone now in this 5th end.
Okei. 13 pool 14.
14, ja.
Katlin Riedeback, she had a slow start in the first couple of ends, but really picked up her game since then. That's an aggressive call from Estonia. That's not a bad shot, that's not a mistake. Remember, that yellow stone just thrown from Katlin Riedeback, that's now protected by free guard zone. That white area in front of the rings. Sweden not allowed to remove that from play. And as we've seen, it can be a lot trickier to play towards the centre if you have last stone. So Estonia happy to keep their shots towards the wings, towards the sides of the rink. Try and set up maybe a stone or 2 over there and then turn their attention to the centre where Sweden will be trying to place their stones instead.
Okej då, Kiki. Bra fart.
Tar 7, tar 6 på den.
Nice from Kristina Olander.
Se oli 12-4.
She's managed to hide a little bit of it behind that guard out front.
13, 12-8.
We've seen how hard it can be. The degree of difficulty here in wheelchair curling more difficult than in non-wheelchair, because the one part that everybody knows from curling, it's that sport with all the brushing on the ice, and the brushing, the sweeping, is not a feature of wheelchair curling. So all of these stones having to be made without any help from sweepers. That's a great try from Katlin Riedebach. She wanted that to curl just a little fraction more. Her weight was lovely.
Ja, stämmer väl in jag då. 13.
Ute. Bra.
First stone of the second half for Swedish second thrower Mats-Olle Engborg. Estonia wants to be a little bit careful here.
12.
Ja, det är alldeles för hårt.
Did you have a little mistake there from Mats-Olle Engborg?
Ja, men vi fick kvar våran.
Bra.
Estonia through that corner guard, the first stone from Katlin Riedebach.
Man blir nervös.
And obviously the circle is not many corners, but that yellow on the right of the centre line there, that's covering more the corner of the sheet. We call that a corner guard. And they threw that up for a reason, and quite often, well, from time to time, sometimes we see teams, they put a corner guard because we know that's the right strategy. That's the best strategy to get us more than 1 point with last stone. But then the other team are playing towards the centre, and you kind of lose your nerve a bit, and we see teams just following the opposition into the centre rather than having a deep breath, use that corner guard. You will have to clear out the opposition stones in the centre, but it is still the best strategy to score more than one. And looks a little bit like that's what Estonia have got dragged into here. They're not really trying to use that corner guard, and I'm not sure they're going to have the chance much longer. That leads us neatly into Tactics 101. Why is it so much more important if you score 2 points with 2 points or more with last stone advantage versus scoring 1 point with last stone advantage? Why does sometimes the team say, yeah, okay, 1 point to you, that's fine for us? And that is because you have one last stone. So with your one last stone at this level, it is typically possible, or that's to say it's typically relatively straightforward to score 1 point with your one last stone. If that's what you need to do, if you just have to score 1 point, then at this level you won't get too many mistakes from either team, and it is relatively straightforward with your one chance, with your one last stone, to score 1 point. Then last stone would pass to the other team. Same thing would happen in reverse, and they would score 1 point. And if we do that for 8 ends, we will end up with a score of 4 points each. So if you want to win the game, you are going to have to do better, at least sometimes, than scoring only 1 point with last stone. And that's why you'll see teams try to mix it up a bit. At least sometimes you have to do better than scoring only 1 point with last stone. And that's why it's such a big difference between scoring the kind of default 1 point, one shot with last stone, rather than scoring 2 or more points, 2 or more shots with that last stone advantage. And that's why also you will, very often in curling, you will see teams quite happy to give up 1 point, to give their opposition 1 point, because then they know that they will have last stone advantage back again.
Det är bra.
Det är bara lite över linan.
Ja.
Also important to remember while we're talking tactics.
Tänker 15. Ja.
And again, as you might be able to imagine, you can only get 2 or more points with your last stone advantage if your opposition makes a mistake. If your opposition plays 8 perfect stones,
Bra!
you can only ever score 1 point with your 1 last stone. And actually, take a look at the men's gold medal match from a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah,
This is
that's
exactly
okay.
what happened to Bruce Mowatt's team. They did not have a single opportunity to score 2 points that whole game because it was in fact Sweden. They were in such good form.
14-4.
Härlig Rontan! Bra!
And that's why you see teams also putting
Vad är
out
det för fart
guards,
på den?
14-4!
trying to mix up
bra.
the angles. They're trying to get a mistake from their opposition. The teams know that
Jag trodde den skulle
to score more than 1 point
sticka lite mer.
with last stone advantage, which you have to do if you win the game. At least sometimes you're going to have to score more than 1 point. Therefore, you need a mistake from your opposition. Therefore, you want to throw up some guards, get some stones hidden in behind, keep stones in play, make it hard for them. And this is very typical in the second half of the game. Estonia have called a timeout. This is quite a complex situation, an important situation.
Timeout. Okay, I can see.
Estonia have last stone advantage in this 5th end. They have that 1 stone already there, although Sweden are lying 1 shot. So they've called a timeout and their coach will come from
No peaks tulema, on ju. No see on
It's actually the other end of the ice rink to offer advice.
Siin on 4 tükki veel ööne tahti. Ega meil oli puhkas.
There, Sweden are lying short. That means Sweden, that red stone is currently closest to the middle. And as we said earlier on in the end, Estonia did get a little bit caught up in Sweden's game plan here. They've been dragged into playing towards the centre. And now they need their coach to come down because they're in a little bit of a pickle. There are quite a few stones on that centre line out front. How can they still make best use of last stone advantage
We're never
here?
going to score, though. How many rocks do we have left? 4?
Yes. On 4, but I don't think we can move it all.
What's draw weight?
Huh?
What's the time for draw weight?
12, 8.
Okay. Well, you don't necessarily, if you just play a heavy draw and just, if we get shot from it, great. But if we just tap it back a little bit, great. But I just take shot rock right now. If you throw 12 at it and miss everything, they're then going to come in again and we're never going to be able to score. So just play a straight draw. I'm not worried about moving the red one. I just need to get shot rock.
How big you think?
Draw.
Huh?
Draw.
Draw?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Unless you want to peel, but that's a lot of rocks to peel.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
Proovi siis. Okay, thank
Have
you.
fun. Watch yourself.
1 minute timeout is concluded. And handily for me at least.
Arvad, jah?
The Estonian coach
Kuskil on
from
umbes 12.8.
Canada.
13.
and able to speak English. So it was easy for us to understand the discussion. The Canadian coach was saying, let's just go for a straight draw here. He was talking about the difficulty of being able to score anything. He said, unless we get a good shot in here just now, then Canada, sorry, not Canada, they're not playing, then Sweden, they will simply follow that same path and just block everything, and it will be almost impossible for Estonia to get even 1 point, never mind trying to make more than that. So Estonia are just trying to get shot stone here. What that means is they just want to not use any other stones in play at the moment. They just want to play a dead draw, a draw that will be closest to the middle. No backing, not using any other stones. Just directly get this stone closest to the middle. You heard the coach saying, I will settle for shot stone just now, and he means at the moment it's looking difficult for us to even score one shot. Oh, and that's a pity.
Palju 13,5?
That just curled a little bit too much again. You could imagine
Vi gör det.
if you had two big boys sweeping that stone would have been just perfect. But more difficult without sweeping, more difficult here in wheelchair curling.
Bra.
But that yellow that's now in the front ring and the blue ring, the 12-foot, that's a stone that Estonia can use. We could maybe see them pushing that stone forward later on this end.
Inne. Bra. Ja då. Satte den bra då nu?
Nu ryker den också. Jag tror det är farten, ja.
Farten bara.
Ja, 13,6.
13,8.
Ja.
13,8! Bra linje!
Farten. Vi får kanske gardna
You
linjen.
hear Billy Pettersson saying that stone had a good line, and it did. The stone from Ronnie Persson there. Ideally, they wanted that red tucked in behind those guards out front, but actually that's found a good spot as well. That means that for Estonia to use that same clockwise handle and try to make a draw, make a stone that lands in the house, that path, they're going to have to now go wider to get a stone in there. So that stone from Ronnie Persson blocking the path for Estonia, and that's why his skip says, yeah, that had a nice line. That's found a good spot. Well, you feel like this is turning into a bit of a critical end here in this intriguing encounter between curling heavyweight Sweden and first-time Paralympians Estonia. This Estonian team out here on the ice, and their fifth person, their alternate, those five, they are the Estonian team here at the Paralympic Winter Games. And as we thought, Estonia indeed using that stone out front to try to push it back, but not quite finding the right angle. Here it comes, that stone just over curling a little bit. We wanted to push that more straight back towards that 4 foot, the red circle. And now what that has done is opened up that same path. Now Sweden will have a chance to try to put a stone. Both teams really aiming for...
Okej, vad tror vi om is då?
Both teams aiming for, we would say, top of the 4 foot.
Men
Ja, det kan vi
har du
göra.
dragit i det?
That's just a convenient way of describing the top of the red circle.
Okej.
Ja,
Bra val.
Niklas.
Den är din. Sträck ut ordentligt.
Lite mer. Bra.
Där.
Ja.
Kom igen.
Bra.
Kom igen, hela vägen.
Skip stones in this fifth end.
Inne.
Look at that situation up there. Very complicated. Filip Pettersson having a very happy game out there, as well as for the previous games in this tournament. Very strong thrower.
8-7.
Oh boy.
Snyggt Filip. Bra.
Riktigt grym.
Oh, indeed.
Den var
And
väldigt
that's
klass.
exactly what the Canadian coach was worried about. If Sweden can ever get a stone in behind everything, going to be very difficult for Estonia to score anything with their last stone advantage here. Look at that. A modest little wave from Pettersson. There is still space. There is definitely still a path. We would need to get right on top of the Paralympic logo. But oh boy, is this an important shot for Estonian skip Andrei Kotmai. Deep breath, sir. Big shot here for Estonia. Sweden making their life pretty difficult in this fifth end. Estonia need a real perfect shot here. He's not bad. Oh, what an effort from Ondrej Koitsmäe. This end turning into a lot like the mixed doubles discipline. We often see tons of stones towards the centre in that discipline.
Yep.
Again, not quite the shot they wanted. Here it comes. What a nice line.
Okej, då minskar jag.
Just gets a tiny little read right, but he had good weight. The
Ta 3 va? Där.
weight of the stone, how far it travels.
Precis.
Nästan
A
3.
little non-committal shake of the head, but again, that's a stone that Estonia can still use. If they would play the same kind of path with his last stone,
Ligger
maybe
lite
he could just
ute. Bra.
bump that stone forward right on top of the logo.
Sätter den bra. Fyra.
Snygg sten.
Bra Vilja. Snygga stenar.
Jättesnyggt.
Sweden also aware of that plan. They would recognise how dangerous that stone was, that nice first throw from Ondrej Koitsmäe.
Vi ligger en i alla fall. Jag har inte kollat så
And
mycket.
doing their best to just block that path, blocking access to that yellow for Estonia.
Lihtsalt proovin sealt tulla selle ringiga, vaata mis ta teeb, kas äkki läheb kuskile pihta.
So Estonia getting sucked into Sweden's tactics a little bit in this end. That corner guard that they threw with their first stone, it's still patiently waiting right over there on the left for someone to use it, but Estonia may be a little tactically naive in this end, getting sucked towards centre play by Sweden. You do have to have good courage when you're playing away from the centre. You know the opposition are going to be playing towards the centre. And you can see what the plan was. They were just trying to catch their own stone there and bump that in, but a very, very difficult shot for Estonia there. Very tricky stuff, high degree of difficulty there, and that's going to be another steal without last stone
Yes, nu
for
jobbar vi in
Sweden in the
den.
fifth, so that means the score overall, Sweden lead Estonia 4 shots to 2.
Fortsätt med det. Vi håller game.
Here's our overall game summary. Sweden just starting to put a little bit of distance now between them and Estonia. Really nice shot placement from Sweden in that fifth end, really neutralising the threat of last stone advantage from Estonia, and Sweden being rewarded with a steal of 1 point, bringing the overall score 4 shots to 2.
3, 2, 1, när du vill.
Ja.
Ute. Bra.
Oj, tight.
Ja.
Händer det något där?
Ja, jag vet inte. Det kändes som att det gjorde det.
Slår han i botten?
Ja, kanske. Jag vet inte.
We are on the sixth end in this 8-end game.
Ja, men farten är jättebra.
We are in
Ja, det är
session
för att du
10.
sa
We are
oj.
Ja, men
deep in the
någonting.
middle of the round robin
Ja.
section of the wheelchair
jag tappade in den.
curling tournament here at
Var det
Paralympic
för
Winter
figurer?
Games
Ja,
in
kanske.
Beijing.
Okej.
Both of these teams still have a chance to qualify. In fact, I think all of the teams still have a chance to qualify. That's how close it is out there. Sweden sitting third in the table at the moment. They're on 3 wins. And Estonia, they're on 2 wins. Estonia making their debut here at the Paralympic Winter Games. The 5 curlers, 4 on the ice and 1 alternate. they are the Estonian team. And in fact, they are the first athletes to represent Estonia in Paralympic Winter Games since 2002.
Come here.
But not resting on their laurels, they've got more to do.
Inne. Bra.
Already achieving big milestones, but already also won 2 of their opening
Kändes
5
okej.
games.
Bra, Kiki. Det är bra.
Hanging on to this game against Sweden, but Sweden just starting to show maybe that little bit more experience tactically.
12-6. Härligt,
Starting to show a
Kiki.
little bit more consistency.
Sitt.
Snyggt.
And Christina Olander again setting up the end really nicely for Sweden.
12,5 kuskil.
Estonia, they
12,5
retain last stone in this 6th end, last stone advantage. And I wonder what they will have taken from
Mul
that
tõmbas
5th
selle
end,
praegu kaasa.
where they did put a corner
Mul
guard up
tõmbas
front,
stopperi kaasa.
but then
Minu viga.
didn't use it. They got sucked into play towards the centre
Ma ei tea.
and made their own life a bit difficult. And it looks like Kathleen Reid the back got tangled up in her own stopwatch there when she was trying to throw, and that stone not making it into play. There's our volunteer just taking that stone out of play. She's going to put it behind that thick red horizontal line. That's the whole line. And the stone, all of the stone must be over all of that line
Japp, det är din
to be
Moe.
in play.
Kom igen.
Bra. Ja då.
Se.
13-2. Härlig fart, Moe. Bra.
Bra Moe!
Det är bra. Snyggt Sten.
Snyggt
And
Sten.
Sweden keeping their foot on the gas here. That's a superb shot from Mats-Ola Engeborg. Lovely guard out front and 2 stones right in behind it.
Meil oleks vaja siia saad taha saada.
Jah, peaks saama.
That's a good idea from Estonia. Don't get sucked into
Kümnega.
playing towards the centre
Kümnega.
just yet. Sometimes you have to switch up the tactics later on in the end, but yeah, let's stick to our tactics first of all. Let's try to bring that yellow guard into play.
Äkki siis võtab selle...
Teeks volli vähemalt, mikki kuradi ette sinna jääks.
Ta võiks nagu lahti.
Kõik on sisse võitud.
And that's better. So he does get everything moving around.
15.
And now
15.
they have 2 corner guards.
15.
Lugn och fin.
Det är din
So this is
Moe.
already
Det är en bra.
better tactics from Estonia in this 6th end. They're not getting sucked into trying to outdraw Sweden immediately. They moved that centre guard. We've played 5 stones, so no longer protected by free guard zone. And yes, there are still 2 Swedish stones there in the centre, but now we have 2 corner guards for Estonia. And Estonia not getting sucked into playing towards the centre and just driving themselves into a bit of a dead end.
Härligt, Moe. Bra.
Snyggt Moe, bra Sten.
Perfekt, lite offset.
They know that Sweden are going to do that. Sweden are going to keep playing towards the centre. They do want to make it hard for Estonia to score, just like they did in that 5th end. And remember, in our Tactics 101 class, Estonia can only score more than 1 point with their last one advantage if they get a mistake from Sweden. They haven't been getting too many mistakes in the second half of this game so far. But that's fine too. They do leave that guard out front, but you can see there's plenty of space from that Estonian guard.
13-3 är det, Moe.
And now the only stone in the house is behind
Marginalen
T-line.
snarare där än här.
Ja.
It's behind that horizontal line, and there is space for a stone to sneak around
Det är din Ronny.
and sit right in front of that red. So this is better from Estonia. They're giving themselves options. They're not curling themselves into a bit of a dead end.
13, 3.
Inne. Bra. Ja da. Satte det fint.
Sweden very happy to continue playing towards the centre.
Det är bra ut Ronny.
13-2.
13-2. Kalas. Bra.
Everybody happy with that one, and indeed that is a super shot from
Fin sten.
Ronny Persson.
Bra.
Paremaks ikka ei lähe.
no midagi võtab see pööra.
Yep, that's correct, Estonia.
Sina võtad.
Sometimes you need to take a bit of a breath, trust the process, trust the tactic. You have to have good courage. You know that the opposition is going to keep playing towards the centre. But Estonia really learning from getting into a bit of a pickle in that fifth end. Tons of stones in play, very difficult for them to be able to get in for shot and in fact giving up a point. And look at that. Nice stuff from Estonia.
Niklas!
Ja.
He does leave that guard out front, but critically, removing both of those stones. Yeah, I'd love to see this one again. He pops that straight back and removes both of those Swedish counters. Really nice shot from the Estonian second. Sorry, third, Lauri Murashov. You can see Ronny Persson
Hoppa lite.
outshooting him a little bit, but it's that kind of shot that should give Murashov
Bra.
a bit of confidence.
Kändes okej.
Ja då. Det är bra Ronta.
8-6.
Sneaks around the guard by nothing.
Det är bra Ronny.
Bra Ronny.
And Ronny Persson removing that dangerous Estonian stone, but now look at the difference between this sixth end and the fifth end. Now there is tons of space for Estonia
Me peame siia
to
tulema
get another
rindama
stone
siia
into play.
ette.
So Sweden removing that Estonian rock, but rolling out themselves, and now there's loads of space for Estonia to now try controlling that front area. Get some stones into play, put that pressure back on Sweden. That's what they struggled with a bit in the fifth end, and this is already much better.
Tundub kiire jah vist.
Kiire.
Kima sinna otsa. Vaatame kohe, mis teeb.
Kätt ei võta aega.
jaa. 12-6.
Palju?
12-6.
They need this to stop.
12-6
Quick, someone drop a patch of Velcro, and it does.
Aga siit võiks paista.
Great effort from Lauri Murashov. Really nice stones from the Estonian middle order there, giving themselves a much better chance in the sixth end to make good use of that last stone advantage.
Et ei tea, on ikkagi
Niklas!
Niklas.
Bra.
Bra. Okej där.
Ja.
Bra. Inne.
That's rock from Estonia, at least partially hidden.
Kom igen, hela vägen.
Again, always trying to increase that level of difficulty for big throwing Viljo Pettersson Dahl.
Lite ute.
Not easy, can't see all of that stone.
Något ut.
Ja, jag håller med.
Kommer jättefint. 8-8. Bra Viljo.
So he
Snyggt.
does reach that stone,
Jättefint.
Det är bra.
removing the Estonian rock, but again, still plenty of space for Estonia.
Siit vahelt peaks tulema.
Rather than almost zero options as they had in fifth end. Different options here of how to use these final two stones, skip stones for Estonia. Only one rock left for Sweden.
Vaata sealt kaugemale.
2 rocks left for Estonia.
no mis te arvate, mida võiks teha?
lüüa.
Lüüa ise ja ise perepeit, sest peita mõlemale poole. Ja seal ma proovis, mõlemale poole saab peita, vaata, läheb paremaks.
Tuled vahet läbi või?
No peaks tulema küll, jah.
Just occasionally in wheelchair curling, you will see slightly different tactics in the wheelchair game versus the non-wheelchair, just because, as we've discussed, the degree of difficulty is different in the wheelchair game, and sometimes achieving the objective, it's easier to do in a slightly different way in wheelchair curling versus non. And in non-wheelchair curling, you may just see a team trying to draw,
9-5.
but sometimes in wheelchair curling can be easier to use the stones that are already there. And that's again nice stuff from Estonia. I think they got just a little bit of a roll to our left, and that means that it could be hard for Sweden to play that same handle. It would be the clockwise handle, but curling away from the centre.
Tänker vi Tage eller?
Nej.
Going to try.
Niklas.
Ja.
Or is he?
ise ei jää, kui ta kuradi
No
kihka
jaa, aga tal polegi vaja jääda, ta ei tahagi jääda.
Den har du. Sträck ut. Tror du på isen? Bra. Jag tror det är bra is.
Inne. Bra.
Big shot here for Velio Pettersson-Dahl. This is probably the most pressure he's been under for a few ends. And that's because of that good play from Estonia. Better tactics, nice stone placement, and it's worked for them. Look at that.
Det är bra.
Good stuff from Estonia. Learning from that messy fifth end. They didn't give themselves a good chance, and now look at all that space they have to get a second stone in and score two. Don't be too hard on yourself, Velio. He's been having a pretty handy game up to this point.
Ei, mä tulen ikka innikä.
Interesting that they're throwing the clockwise handle here.
no kiirust on, et lahjaks ei jää. Palju aega on?
Palju Kätlin said?
12-6.
No peaks jääma parem.
Opting not to use the stone that's already
Jääb
there.
pidama või?
And he doesn't need to. Really nice stuff from Estonia. Much improved tactics, much improved shot placement, and look at their reward. They got that mistake from Sweden in their final stone, and now Estonia put a big 2 on the board in the sixth end. And that levels the score. 4 shots each after 6 ends, Sweden against Estonia.
Nu sätter vi
Den där
våra
tar
stenar.
Moa.
Jag kan ta
Jag
den.
vill ju ta
Jag
den.
var på
Jag
väg
tar
att ta
min.
den här.
Nej, men det är bra.
Vi
Kom
sätter
igen.
våra stenar.
Here's our overall game summary. Sweden keeping those good numbers for their accuracy, but Estonia having a really nice, strong sixth end, really learning from that fifth end and putting a big 2 on the board to keep them in touch in this game. We are in the 7th end of this very exciting encounter between Sweden and Estonia here at Paralympic Winter Games. We are at the National Aquatic Centre, as it is normally. This is where all the swimming events took place in the 2008 Summer Olympics when they were here in Beijing. But it's nice and cold this week. We are enjoying the wheelchair curling at the Paralympic Winter Games here. Sweden, they have won, this team have won silver and bronze in the previous 2 World Wheelchair Curling Championships, so they are in good form at the moment. But this Estonian team, they are not going away without a fight. It's their first Paralympic Winter Games. But they have already won 2 out of their first 5 games. Not intimidated by heavyweight Sweden. Two ends left to play, including this one. We play 8 ends, and if scores are tied, after those 8 ends, we will play extra ends as needed. Very occasionally, you need more than 1 extra end. Both teams with a good amount of time, neither team needing to rush. They both have 38 minutes thinking time for their whole 8 ends, and both teams, they have plenty enough time left for the 7th end and the 8th. And what a nice start from Katlin Riedebach. 2 stones plumb on the centre, removing that first Swedish stone, getting a mistake from Sweden and consolidating it there in the centre. Now, we only have 2 ends left. We're in the 7th end, this end and the 8th end. Scores are tied. Let us go back to tactics school. If you are Sweden, what's your objective for this end?
Niklas 4! Bra.
You may remember when we were talking tactics before, we said that scoring 1 point, if all you have to do is score 1 point, then at this level, if you have last stone, that's relatively straightforward. Therefore, what Sweden would like is, if they could score 0 in this end, if they could blank this end, then scores would be level. In the 8th end, it would still be 4 each. Sweden would have the all-important last stone, and they would be correct to feel confident that with scores level, Sweden with last stone in the final end, in the 8th end, all they would have to do is score 1 point at that stage. Sweden would be right to feel fairly confident that that's a good situation for them. And that is exactly what we will surely see Sweden trying to do in this 7th end. They would love to blank, score 0, keep scores as they are, keep last stone advantage in the 8th end, and score that all-important 1 point to finish the game. Whereas Estonia, they want to do the reverse. It is another situation where the Sweden score just 1 point, but no more than that. That is okay for Estonia. Then they would have last stone advantage in the 8th end. And they would have to score at least 1 to go to an extra end, or 2 to win the game. And we've just seen Estonia score 2 with last stone. So that's what they'll be trying to do. So objective for Sweden would be to score 0 and hang on to last stone. And objective for Estonia, oddly enough, but tactically sensibly, would be if Sweden score 1 point, but no more than that. And then it would be Estonia who has the all-important last stone in the 8th end.
võta küll. Vutib üle või? Peaks ise ka.
10.
At the moment, though, Sweden are lying 2 shots.
Trycker
Definitely
ni, ska vi dra
that
dit eller?
red in the 8-foot circle, the white one. That's very clearly
Alternativet är
in.
slå den
And
där.
Ja, det kan vi göra också.
from this angle, that red towards the back on the left of our screen, it looks like that red is just hanging on by
Jag
its
är bekväm
fingernails
att dra ner
at the
den.
back there.
Ja.
Spela en 8.
8.
Ja. Lite utsida bara.
Ja, nu är det din.
Now, why is this a good idea?
Kan spela Niklas också om du vill, Moe.
Niklas är då.
Kör Niklas. Bra.
Niklas, det är bra.
Kom
Det är
igen.
din.
Fin kalibrera.
Looks like Sweden opting
Den
to
har
just remove this Estonian guard.
Bra. Kändes okej.
Lite hård kanske.
8-1.
Ja, det räcker.
Success.
8-1 är det, Moe. Sätter den bra annars.
Ja, det är bra.
Nice stuff from second thrower Mats-Ola
Gör
Engborg.
jobbet.
Now, remember what we said
Bra Moe.
Estonia's objective was. Estonia would love to try to force Sweden to score that 1 point, and the easiest way or the best chance for Estonia to do that is if that guard is still in play and Estonia can hide a stone behind it. That would put pressure on Sweden. That could force Sweden to score 1 point. And that's why Sweden say, no, it's that guard that's dangerous for us.
But we can measure it.
No, you can't measure
Vänta,
it.
vänta. Oj,
Okay, right
Andrea.
now we can measure. Yes.
No, you cannot measure that stone. They're discussing, is that red
Saame
stone,
tehnilise võtta rast ära mõõta.
is it in the rings or out of the rings?
Võtame tee.
If any part of it is touching the rings,
Tehnilise laseme ära
it's in.
mõõta.
Okay, measure.
I think he's going to be told you're not allowed to measure it. You can only measure it at the end of the end, the conclusion of this end.
Ei.
If I see
At the moment, you just have to make a judgment call.
Kas ei vaatab ka seal?
The only time you're allowed...
Nüüd jääks mingi 10 sekundit.
I thought the only time you're allowed to measure this is
20.
during free guard zone, actually.
Nej, vi kommer mäta den där om vi är tveksamma den är kvar.
Yeah, indeed. The only time you're allowed to measure it during an end is for free guard zone. Otherwise, you have to wait until the conclusion of the end. You can't measure this while the end is still underway. You can only use that for free guard zone to determine if a stone is in free guard zone or not. You cannot use that measure to determine if a stone is in play at any other time. You can only use it at the conclusion of the end.
Oh no. Ja, det törs inte missa.
Okay. Play. Okay. Oh.
No?
Spontan paus, kan man få kaffe eller?
When it's a guard, you can measure it. And when it's not now...
Yeah, just a little bit of inexperience there from Estonia. We occasionally see the 6-foot measure coming
Ainult
out.
siis ainult kui on kaitse, siis saab.
Exactly, he's just
Okay.
explaining now to his team. I think we only see that coming out to determine if a stone is in free guard zone or not, because that's important. If it's in free guard zone, you can't remove it from play. If it's not in free guard zone, you can remove it from play, but you can't just whip out the 6-foot measure whenever you like.
Varför köpte du inte?
You have to use your own judgment. Now, from our angle, I would say that stone is touching the rings,
Siis kui kaitse on või ei ole, vaat siis on mõte.
but we may yet see the
Või
6-foot measure on it
niimoodi, on
at
parem
the
või?
conclusion
Ei,
of
ma
this
tulen
end.
välja.
9, jah?
Curling, of course, predating the metric system by many hundreds of years. And for convenience, you will still hear curling folks talking about the 6-foot measure. So the radius of the circles is 6 feet, diameter is 12 feet. And you will still hear people talking about, even in metric countries, fully metric countries, you will still hear folks talking about The 12-foot circle, the blue one.
Aega peab ka vaatama.
8-foot circle is the red one. Sorry, the 8-foot circle is the white one. And the 4-foot circle, the all-important 4-foot, you will hear much talk about top of the 4-foot, back of the 4-foot. That's that red circle.
Niklas.
Det är din nu. Niklas, fast och fart. Ja.
And that could be a big deal at this stage in the game. Remember, we said what Estonia would have as an objective for the 7th end. They would like it if Sweden can score 1, but no more than that. If Sweden can score 2, that would make the score 6-4, and Estonia would need at least 2 just to go to extra end, and that's a much tougher ask than scoring only 1, but that's exactly the mistake they needed from Sweden, and now whether that stone is touching the rings or not, I think we're going to see Estonia make no mistake and just remove it.
Ma arvan, et ta on sees.
Yeah, let's make sure that red is
Ja
not
ma
in the
arvan, et ta on
rings.
sees. Lööme, ise jääb siia asemele näiteks.
Although, having said that, this tactic is playing into Sweden's hands a little bit. Remember what we discussed as Sweden's objective.
Sandri, tule kohe siia ära ka.
Sweden are quite happy if we score 0. If nothing changes for the 7th end and scores are tied going into the 8th end.
Väga ilus.
Ja ise veel peale ka, väga hea.
But that's okay from Estonia, because that stone is hanging around. That stone's very clearly touching the rings. That keeps that pressure on Sweden. So we will never know if that Swedish stone was actually counting or not. It certainly isn't anymore, but that Estonian rock definitely is.
Niklas, jag var lite hård på förra. Okej.
Ja, det är bra. Kom igen.
Bra! Ja då.
Kändes okej.
Kändes bra.
Ja, måste vi vara beredda eller? Nej.
Nej, jag tror inte.
Niklas 1.
Niklas 1, bra då nu!
Bra Ronny!
Snyggt!
Finns det?
Nice stone from Ronnie Persson.
Ja, men vi kanske måste vara med nu då.
Bra, bra. Supersten. Bra. Ja, skönt att vara kvar.
Ja.
So Estonia being fairly conservative. Not wanting Sweden to have any chance to score more than 1, but as we said, this is rather playing into Sweden's hands. It's relatively straightforward here, or Sweden less likely to make a mistake in this situation. Sweden would love to just score 0 in this end, and they can do that by hitting a final stone and rolling away. Less likely to make a mistake and accidentally stick for 1. So we'll see a couple more shots like this, exchanging hits, and then we will surely see Sweden try to hit and roll away so that there is no score in the 7th end.
Kom igen nu.
Isen känns bra.
Ja, det tror jag.
Kom igen.
Niklas.
Kvast
Bra. Bra.
First stone in this critical 7th end.
Bra satt.
Swedish skip. Viljo Pettersson-Dahl. All 4 of the Swedes throwing above 70%.
Bra Viljo.
Snyggt Sten.
Makes no mistake with that one. So that's the easier of his 2 stones. Sweden will know what to expect from Estonia with their last stone of the 7th end. And then the big challenge comes on the 8th stone. Ondrej Koitsmei matching Viljo Pettersson-Dahl for accuracy in this game.
Läheb, hoia.
Hea küll.
Important that the Swedish stone goes, and he would love this stone to hang around, which it does.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really excellent shot.
Där!
If Sweden want to score 0 here,
Mida?
Kiiremaid viskeid.
Ei no ma ei tahtsin, et ta jääks sinna
here's the overall numbers.
jaa, aga praegu ei väga.
Matching each other overall, although
Ska vi säga åt domarna att göra den
a little happier on the draw. Stones that will land in the
Har du
house,
sagt åt
and
domaren eller?
Koitsmai more comfortable with takeouts today.
Så hon är med där bara?
But this is a big shot for Peterson Dahl.
Bra, bra
Ligger
snackat.
där.
He needs to remove that Estonian
Bra.
rock, and if they want to score 0, this Swedish rock has to go away as well.
7-8.
And it hasn't.
Okay,
That's
thank you.
exactly
Asen.
One
what
red.
Bra
Estonia
William. Bra.
were hoping for.
Bra.
En röd.
Ja, bra.
Again, that type of shot, higher degree of difficulty
Ei, meil on amm.
from wheelchair curling. You're only using your upper body strength instead of that leg drive. So a little bit harder to get those big peels, the highest weight, but after 7th end, then that's 1 point to Sweden, and they lead Estonia 5 shots to 4. So what a conclusion we have for this game between Sweden and debutants Estonia. It is Sweden who are just on top of this game. They lead 5 shots to 4, but Estonia not giving up easily, and Estonia in the best position they could have got to, really. They are 5 shots to 4 behind Sweden, but critically they have the all-important last stone advantage in this 8th
När du
end.
vill.
Oj, vrid upp. Nej, jag tror att den är bra. Den är bra.
Okej.
Den duger.
Det är din. Kom igen.
Bra!
Kändes bra.
Ja, den sitter fint.
Lite rask kanske.
Lead stones will be even more important in this 8th end.
12-7.
This is the final end of regulation play.
Ja.
Härlig sten!
If scores are tied at the conclusion of this 8th end, we will go to an extra end. We
Daily
must
days,
have a
yeah.
winner. Doesn't matter if you win on the last stone of an extra end or whether you can get a score of 10 points to 2 in 6 ends. The only thing that will be recorded is 1 win or 1 loss. This is a really classic situation. It's the final end
Väga tubli.
of regulation play.
Väga tubli.
Estonia need to score at least 1 point, ideally 2 points.
Framkant!
Sweden need to stop Estonia
Okej, guard
scoring
framkant
2
eller?
points
Ja.
and
Kom igen.
preferably stop them scoring 1 point.
13-5-14.
Yes!
Bra.
Okej.
Sweden, they would like to steal a point. They would like to score a point
Kom igen, den har du.
even though they don't have last stone. So that's the objectives for this end. Estonia will do their best to try to set
Bra.
up for 2 points, try to win the game here, but they need to make sure they still have a chance to score 1
Kändes bra.
point.
Ja, den är fin.
So what they need to do is remember back to the 6th end when
Det blir nog guard. Den kändes lite
it
tur.
was a similar situation where
14-8.
Estonia had last stone and they did end up picking up 2 points.
Bra kick-up.
And they started in a very similar way. They know Sweden will be playing towards the centre to try to make it really difficult for Estonia to score 2 points. But they need to
On days.
have a deep
Ball.
breath, trust the
Hey,
process,
practice
trust the
ball,
tactics.
12 pool, 3.
Don't get sucked into playing everything towards the centre at this early stage. That's what happened in the 5th end, and they got in a bit of a pickle. So Estonia need to remember that 6th end, remember the good tactics, the good shots they played in the 6th end. This is exactly the right idea. Is that stone going to hang on though? I think it does. And that might be all they need.
Yeah, there.
Good!
They had to make sure they had point number 2, so to say, in behind that corner guard.
Bra. Det är din, Moe.
And with that stone safely in behind cover, now we will see Estonia turn their attention towards the centre. And just like in the 6th end, we will see them trying to remove Swedish stones, keep things clear. Give Andrei Koitmäe a chance to win the game with his final stone. And Sweden, of course, they're doing exactly the opposite. They want to keep stones in the centre. They've already got 1 stone in the forefoot in the red circle. They now have 2 guards out front.
15-5 hade jag.
And now we will see Estonia
Ja, det är bra, Moe.
turn their attention to the centre. 1, 2, 3, 4. 5 stones in play. Free guard zone is over.
Täcker ändå väldigt mycket.
Ja, det var ju verkligen.
Siin on ruumi väga palju.
Kümnega, jah?
10.
This is not necessarily the right idea here. Important is that those guards go away, even if you remove the shot stone here. And he was looking pretty nice for it. So that looks like a lovely shot, and to some extent it is. But this is again, this is a little bit playing into Sweden's hands here. So that a little bit tactical naivety here from Estonia. That stone, the Swedish stone that they just popped out, that's not the stone that was going to cause them trouble. The stones that are causing them trouble, and that will potentially come back to bite them, are those 2 guards on the centre. Those are the ones that they need to try removing. What they're doing here, while keeping those guards in play, they're just giving Sweden a chance to set up better, and they need to get rid of those guards.
Tage 4. Wow! Snyggt, Moe!
Det är grymt det, Moe! Bra! Härligt!
So let's learn from that, Estonia.
Inga röda försvann.
That wasn't the best shot to give yourselves a chance. Remember what you did in the 6th end. You were removing those guards, and that's what worked for you. You do have to have courage here to ignore that stone that's right in the middle. You feel like that's the one that's you want to remove, but it isn't. You need to think the whole end through to the conclusion. You need to think 8 stones. And I like this shot better. And he's got a little bonus stone springing into the rings there. That's a better result for Estonia.
Jag tycker vi tar den.
Okej.
Ja, tycker också
Vi kan inte lämna.
Nej, inte lämna någon.
Niklas!
Ja.
Det är din.
Eller vänta, ska vi tajma och prata om den?
Gör det.
Ja, gör det.
Time out!
Now Sweden calling their timeout.
Ja, det är bra.
Estonia already used theirs, and Sweden now calling their coach down. Not such a complicated situation, but again, they want to make sure they do the right thing. They could remove the Estonian rock there, or do they continue playing towards the centre to try to block up that path and make it more difficult for Estonia? So a couple of options. Let's hear what their coach has to say.
Skulle man ha den perfekta träffen så river ju bägge.
Den perfekta träffen river vi båda, och har vi en annan träff så vickar vi ner bakom.
Så vickar vi bakom, precis.
Så.
Det är många utfall på den som är gynnsamma. Ja, jag håller med.
Det låter som ni klarar redan.
Ja,
Eller?
ja, det känns så.
Ja.
Vi tycker att det känns lite läskigt med 2 hängare.
Ja. Skönt att bli kvar med egen är viktigare än dubben. Så att
Precis.
lugnt och fint
dubben
bara.
är
Så.
inte det.
Nej.
Vi går på vikt.
Ja,
Precis.
tycker jag
Och
känns
curlar vi
jättebra.
upp så har vi eventuellt.
Ja, men den är ju en bonus. Så att det är liksom...
Då gör vi det.
Lugnt och fint bara.
Niklas.
Niklas. Bra.
Ja, bra snackat hörni.
Ja.
Bra.
Ses om en stund.
So 1 minute timeout concluded for Sweden.
Ja, bra nu. Niklas.
And they could potentially achieve both at once here. I think that's probably what the call is. If you play not a big strong weight, not too fast, curling away from the centre, so the anti-clockwise handle towards that Estonian rock, you will punch out that Estonian rock, and then ideal would be to roll exactly to the centre line with the shooter, the stone that Ronnie Person's about to throw. So you can actually achieve both things at once. You can remove that Estonian rock and you can roll towards the centre and block that path as well.
Yes. Kom igen. Den har vi.
Den är din. Kom igen. Niklas. Ja.
Ska hoppa ytterst lite.
Ja, men det är bra. Bra. Så, kom igen. Ligger bra då nu. Sätter fast den lite längs linan.
Okej.
Kom då.
Let's see.
8-5.
Number 1, remove Estonian stone.
8-4.
Kom igen.
And he
Ja, okej.
rolls a little bit too far and pops out his own stone.
10.
But that dangerous Estonian rock has disappeared. And again, Estonia don't get involved with playing to the centre here. Better idea is to just remove that guard, just try and keep it open. Remember, Estonia would love to score 2, and that stone right at the back for Estonia, that might yet count, but Estonia have to be able to still score 1, and as long as that dangerous guard is out front, it's harder for Estonia to score 1 point.
10 boll.
That's a guard that Sweden can hide behind.
Niklas!
Could make it difficult for Estonia to even score 1 point, that they need to go to extra end here.
Kom igen nu. Nu är det din. Lite insida så får du med dig.
Få ner farten lite.
First time at Paralympic Winter Games for Estonia. A little bit less experienced tactics-wise than this highly experienced Swedish rink. And sometimes you just have to go through it and learn and come out the other side and do it differently.
Sitter lite tight. Eller eller? Kom igen. Det kändes väldigt tight den där.
Niklas 6 har jag.
Niklas 6!
Ja.
Please remove the guard, Estonia.
Kom igen Persson.
Vilja, vi har 6 minuter kvar.
Mis teeme? Kas kaitse või toon sisse?
Ei,
Kaitse ikka.
Paneme kaitse.
Teise poolt jääb neil niikuinii vabaks.
I wish Estonia had not used their timeout and could call their coach at this point, who would say, remove that guard, Estonia. Golly, this is playing with fire.
Mine.
No 3 minutit, Andrei peaks küll 1,5 minutiga.
No kui nad seal räägivad ka, siis...
Kiirustasid või?
Mine üle.
Kiirustasid või?
Disastrous.
Midagi teha ei ole, kurat.
No ei okei.
Oleks nüüd rahulikult ikka siia lähedale
Luckily
kohe.
for Estonia, I'm not sure that stone is in play. All of the stone has to be over all of the line. It is not. But a second centre guard would be a catastrophe. And imagine now, if Estonia had removed that centre guard, there would be nothing for Sweden to hide behind. And we're pretty sure that Estonian rock at the back, we're pretty sure that's in the rings. And they he would give himself a much stronger chance to make those important 2 points. And a very, very good chance to make at least one to go to extra end. But now that dangerous card still in play.
Bra där. Bra satt. 8-8. Snyggt
And
Viljo,
she has got a
bra.
roll. And imagine if that guard wasn't now there.
8-7, 8-8.
Estonia could see the red stone. So Estonia living awfully dangerously here.
Kom.
Tegelikult nad ikka selle punase ise ära koristama sealt eest
counting themselves a bit lucky here
ja laskma neil lüüa.
that Estonia are
Lüüa mida?
Tee ka midagi.
making their own lives a little bit difficult.
Oled nüüd mul nõu anda või? Okei, tegelikult sealt võimalik on.
So we need 2 perfect stones here from Ondrej Koitmäe. They've made their lives a little bit difficult, tactically speaking, Estonia. So either way, we were always going to need 2
Jõud ainult jätkub.
really perfect shots from the Estonian skip.
Läheb punasesse jah. Kaitses läheb.
Slightly inexperienced tactics, they may have increased their level of difficulty, but actually I like that stone better because
Seda oleks pidanud sinuga, Lauri, tegema, jah.
whatever Sweden now do with their final stone in this 8th end, Estonia will at least have
Tycker du?
a very makeable shot to score 1 point, if not 2.
Då gör vi det.
Ja, men alltså, den är långt bak, den är halvjämn. Det curlar mycket.
Ja.
Chansen.
Ja.
Kom igen.
Is på 5. Ligger bra.
Tänker 15. Det är bra.
Även framkant kan vi ställa frågan.
Ja, det är bra. Den har du. Du har bra fart i det.
Kom igen, Lili.
Final stone in this 8th end
Lite in.
for
Bra där.
Viljo Pettersson-Dahl, skip for Sweden. Sweden have played a very tight game, but Estonia just not going away. Estonia hanging on somehow to this game. Nice shots from Estonia, but perhaps a little bit
14-6.
tactical naivety. But
Det är bra
definitely
Viljo.
Estonia have... There is a shot to make 2 points to win the game from here. It's a very difficult one. And then we will see if that stone right at the back. That was thrown all the way back on stone 2 by Katlin at the back. We will see if that stone's counting. But first things first, that Swedish stone is currently winning the game for them.
No nüüd peaks mööda minema.
Ei lähe raisk ikka.
Läheb.
Ei lähe.
Ei lähe, jah.
Persse küll.
Midagi teha ei ole.
And I think that guard's going to do its job. It does.
Läks nii see.
Jah.
And that is a hard-fought win for Sweden. Estonia playing pretty nicely. Just a little bit naive with their tactics. But Sweden will be relieved to get that one out of the way. Throwing pretty nicely, but Estonia hanging on to that game, making some critical shots. But it is finally a score of 1 point to Sweden.
On sheet A, Slovakia 7, Republic of Korea.
Smiles of relief and
On sheet B,
happiness all round from Sweden. That was a very tough game for them. It is a final score of 1 point to Sweden. They defeat Estonia 6 shots to 4.
为您公布本轮比赛成绩 ：A 赛道斯洛伐克队7，韩国队2；B 赛道瑞典队6，爱沙尼亚队
But Estonia doing plenty of good stuff out there.
拉脱维亚队6，挪威队8。
They're still a very new team. Their first Paralympic
Ladies
Games,
and gentlemen, the
Paralympic Winter
Beijing
Games.
Organizing Committee for the 2022
Learning all the
Olympic
time.
and Paralympic Winter Games
Playing
sincerely
plenty of good
thanks
shots,
all
and
technical
still all to play for.
officials,
Still
staff, and
plenty of points
volunteers
left in
for
this
their
round robin.
outstanding efforts.
女士们、先生们，北京2022年冬奥会和冬残奥会组织委员会感谢所有技术官员、工作人员和志愿者们的辛苦付出。
Let's give them a round of applause.
请和我们一起将掌声送给他们。
Oj, kolla där.
That concludes this afternoon's competition. Thanks for watching and for your active participation. Please follow the instructions of our staff on your way out and make sure to pick up your trash and belongings. Thanks for your cooperation.
女士们、先生们，今天下午的比赛到此结束。
Confirmation there,
感谢
very
您的
hard
观
fought
看
win for
和热情
Sweden.
的参与
Estonia doing a lot of good stuff, but Sweden finally triumphing 6 shots to 4
当您
over
离开座位
Estonia.
时，请不要忘记带走垃圾。感谢您的合作。
And how does that affect the standings? Sweden now riding high on top, 4 wins out of 5. Estonia still in the mix. They have 2 wins out of their 6 games. And improving all the time. There we can see the overall game summary. Sweden really consistently outshooting Estonia, but Estonia making a few real good clutch shots to keep themselves in this game, score at important times. But Sweden, just that bit more experience, running out winners in the end. So this session finished for our local fans. So a really fascinating game we had from curling heavyweight Sweden against Paralympic Winter Games debutants Estonia. Estonia not going away without a fight. Sweden really getting the jump on Estonia from the beginning of the game and outshooting them, but Estonia making some real critical shots, particularly their skip Ondrej Koitmäe making some particularly important shots at critical times of the game and just hanging on to Sweden, taking them all the way to the final stone of an 8th end. Finally, a little bit tactical naivety from Estonia. They're learning all the time, but that's another big win on the board for Sweden. They're making very good progress, and Estonia still in the mix in the round-robin stage of the wheelchair curling in Beijing.